Hey, this is Matt once again. What about another video? This is another paid request, this time for Ryan. Thank you so much for that. And he wanted me to do a commentary on, get this here, Looney Tunes Back in Action, which is a film. I think I found this DVD for like $1 or two from way, I don't know how many years ago it's been since I got this. I think I was just finding DVDs at the pawn shop, $1 or $2 just for the collection. And this is one of those films I don't hate, but I didn't love, and I'm kind of in the middle, and I'm not quite sure how or why. It just feels like a movie I should like more than I do. I know it sounds strange, but I remember not hating the film either. But anyway, for those interested, requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, whatever, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. I will try to get to them as soon as I can. So we have it here. Pause the beginning. 3, 2, 1. Pressing play. As we have the Warner Brothers logo. Looney Tunes. It's funny how popular of characters they are, but not a lot of movies based on their stuff. I mean, we have their appearance, Bugs Bunny's appearance in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. We got Space Jam. We got this movie, and we got Space Jam New Legacy. Not a whole lot of other stuff. Of course, then you think about how many full mainstream movies have Mickey Mouse and stuff in it, even less so. Unless you're talking about stuff that were back in the day and such. Now, of course, this is a old school shit that was happening a lot. Dutch season, rabbit season, all the moments that Daffy does getting blown to pieces. Now, I know this is directed by Joe Dante, and I know he said in an interview that those two guys, I recognize those two guys, they were in Gremlins 2, another Joe Dante film, the twins. I believe they're also the guys in, because in this they're supposed to be the Warner Brothers. They were in Terminator 2. Remember the scene where you had this guard, and then you have the T-1000 come out of the floor, and the guards look at him, and one does the finger thing right into the other's eyeball? That's these two guys. And again, they were in Gremlins 2, the new batch. They were the assistants of Christopher Lee's character. Now here we have Jenna Elfman, which she was on a TV show called Dharma and Greg, and she didn't do a whole lot of movies. So I don't know what they're doing nowadays. What she's doing nowadays, I should say. Like, Jenna Elfman kind of disappeared out of the woodwork. I think there's a lot more fans of Daffy Duck than what she was saying. She's full of shit. But yeah, Joe Dante was saying that he did the film as an ode to Chuck Jones, who he was friends with. And Chuck Jones has a cameo in Gremlins. Chuck Jones has his drawing at the bar where Zach Galligan's looking at it, or Zach Galligan's drawn and Chuck Jones looks at him. Anyway, he's like a patron at the bar. That's the scene where Zach Galligan leaves, goes to the table, and tells to Judge Reinhold's character, "The crew almost got fired." Yeah, Chuck Jones has a cameo in that. So anyway, he did as an ode to Chuck Jones, who had passed away, and Chuck Jones, of course, had done a lot of stuff with the Looney Tunes. So then he did this film, and then he said later on, apparently this is a film he does not like being asked about, and there's very few interviews where he's talked about the film. But all he mentioned was that while he got hired, he didn't have much creative freedom, that the studio executives changed a lot of the jokes because they got tired of the jokes, and so they just changed a lot of stuff. And yeah, that he didn't have a lot of creative freedom, and that was a long year and change of his life. But I would like to hear more details. He said that the beginning, middle, and end were completely different in his version that he wanted. I mean, I'd be very curious to know what that all entails, but... Now, this stars Brendan Fraser, who I like Brendan Fraser. I've always liked Brendan Fraser. I have not seen The Whale. I'm glad he's getting some good notices because he's a nice enough guy. I always liked him. He was good in dramas. He was good in comedies. I remember more for comedies. George of the Jungle, Airheads I really enjoy. What was the other movie? Encino Man I liked. Even The Mummy. The first Mummy's really good. The Mummy from 1999. Very entertaining adventure film. And this sadly was a time when we were getting... So, his career was going a bit down during this time. Because The Mummy was a big success, and he did The Mummy Returns, which was also a success. But then after that, that was what, 2001? So then he was having films like this film, which was a complete bomb. He had, what was that, Monty Bone, complete bomb. What was the other, not Bewitched, the other movie, Bedazzled, Harold Ramis's film. That film did not do well. That was a bomb. And what was the other movie? The Furry Vengeance. That was like a career killer. And like I said, none of these films were successful. They bombed. And when you have like 3, 4, 5 of them, then studios go, you know what? It's kind of done. Or his 15 minutes of fame are gone. Or now that's Roger Corman, of course, known for working and hiring Joe Dante back in the day. So Roger Corman got a little cameo here. I think it's just a fun idea that Roger Corman would direct a Batman movie. Dip Miller, we saw an appearance of him. He was the other security guard with Brendan Fraser. We saw him earlier in the movie. It was Dip Miller, may he rest in peace, was in Gremlins, Gremlins 2, The Howling. Way back in the day, the original Little Shop of Horrors. Made by Roger Corman. Here's the Batmobile. Of course, this is the Warner Brothers lot. This is where Brendan Fraser's character is going to get fired because of this. If you hear background noise, it's the fireworks because I'm recording this on New Year's Eve. So that's not gunshots, that is fireworks. So the water tower is coming down downtown, washing it all away. I think they changed the voice actor of Bugs Bunny. Like it was, I want to say it was Billy West or someone, and then they changed it to someone else. There's Dip Miller. He was in Explorers. Quite a few Joe Dante movies. I remember this had like a decent sized budget, but when it came out, it just did absolutely nothing. And whether it was a lack of promotion, lack of interest, I don't know. Little joke about PC with Speedy Gonzalez. I thought this was pretty funny. Matthew Lillard talking to Shaggy, voiced by Casey Kasem. So I thought that was kind of nice. Yeah, Matthew Lillard in the same area as the Casey Kasem voice Shaggy. I remember reading up that originally Joe Dante wanted like Tom and Jerry and Droopy, but then I guess they said no, have Scooby Doo because it's more recognizable. Well, I mean, which makes sense because it's Warner Brothers. It's a fun little gag. I mean, in a way, some of this dialogue is kind of prevalent today where, like, Bugs Bunny, he was known for cross-dressing, and Jen Elfman's like, well, back in the day, yeah, funny, but nowadays it's disturbing. Well, nowadays, they would just say that Bugs Bunny was, I don't know, transgender or something. Which I'm surprised they haven't done that. He's transgender. He's pronouns. Whatever his pronouns are, he, she, or she, he, or they, them, or butt fuck. I don't fucking know. He transitions and is in love with Daffy Duck, and they become husband and wife. People think I'm exaggerating. Would you really be that surprised? I think it's one of those things that when this film began, I thought, okay, it's going to be sort of a Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Instead of Bob Hoskins and Roger, it's going to be Brendan Fraser and Daffy. And that's where it's going to go, where it's going to be a road trip with these two where we get a little bit more insight into Daffy, where he learns either a little bit more humility, not over the top. I'm not saying it has to be Shawshank Redemption dramatic. But it's one of those things where that it'd be some kind of little bit more character development, but it just wasn't the case there. Now, Brendan Fraser's father is played by Timothy Dalton, who the whole joke is that he played an actor who was a super spy, and of course Timothy Dalton was James Bond, and probably the most underrated James Bond, because License to Kill is an awesome movie. Definitely top 5 James Bond films. And I like the Living Daylights as well. And again, I don't know if it was just... I know it doesn't make sense for me to say I like Space Jam more than this, because you look at it like this is actually more in tone of Looney Tunes, and while Space Jam is more of a Michael Jordan basketball commercial. But it kind of hit that right nostalgic note with basketball fans being a fan of it because of Jordan, the basketball players, and then enjoying the Looney Tunes aspects. The soundtrack was a big part of people's childhood, including mine. And sometimes just hits those right notes. And maybe that's the thing, is that Space Jam, in a weird way, still felt kind of unique in what it is. That a basketball player mixed in with these characters, and other than the Nike commercials, that But this, I think, maybe more has the vibe of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So in a weird way, it seems more familiar. I don't know how else to put it. And that's one of those tough things when you're dealing with an anime character. You have to make sure when you look, you're looking at the character and not through them. And it's a lot tougher to do than people think. And I think Bob Hoskins did a fantastic job showcasing that. There's a super spy car. You know, it's funny. I could see real meetings seeming like this. You know, my film made 950 million, but it didn't make a billion. Nope, didn't make a billion. That's like probably the people when Batman v Superman came out. Well, the movie made 800 and some million. It wasn't a billion though. Nope, it wasn't a billion. So you're fired. And this thing maybe it's just one of those where I don't know if there's maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, so there wasn't sort of a consistent throw through line, through line. What the hell? Through line? Again, something about where I don't think it's awful or terrible, but it wasn't really as hilarious as it could have been or as nostalgic. And it's also one of those films that tries to be very meta. Like Brendan Fraser mentions, he was a stuntman in the Mummy movies and all this other stuff. And like I said, I don't know what it is. There's just something about it where I watched it and it moved at a decent enough pace. And it seems like a lot of stuff is being showcased. But at the same time, just something about it just didn't really click for me. I was just one of those things where you're just throwing so many ideas against the wall to see what fits. We have Bill Goldberg there, who is walking. Of course, WCW champion Bill Goldberg, which he did a few movies. He was in Universal Soldier: The Return with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Michael Jai White. He was in the Killer Santa film Santa's Sleigh. I think he was in The Longest Yard, I believe, with Adam Sandler. And of course, here is Steve Martin with this very unique haircut that he has. And I love Steve Martin. I mean, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is a wonderful film. He did a great job in other movies as well. There's this one called L.A. Story that I really did like. There's Ron Perlman sitting there. Forgot that Ron Perlman was in this. Of course, Ron Perlman, who was the original Hellboy. He was in Alien Resurrection. He was in quite a few other stuff. I can't say I really like Steve Martin's performance in this. I mean, I get what they're doing, but it was just so big, so broad, so over the top that it was a little bit more annoying than anything. It kind of felt like a type of role like Jim Carrey would have done or something. Just very spastic. Like I said, very spastic, very big. And I don't know. Like I said, something about it just didn't quite click for me compared to other stuff. Like, just very broad, very over the top in his performance. Of course, the villainous Acme Corporation. And that's Robert Picardo. So the guy that mentioned, what about the Dutch? Robert Picardo, he worked with Joe Dante a lot as well. He was the kind of killer on the loose, especially in the first act of The Howling. And later on you realize he's one of the werewolves. He was in Inner Space. He was in Explorers. He was the voice of the alien that actually at one point does do a Bugs Bunny impersonation, which sadly that was the worst part of that movie. Explorers was great and then ruined by such a shitty third act. Robert Picardo is probably also known for Star Trek. In Star Trek First Contact, he was the hologram doctor, and that was a reference to, I want to say, Deep Space Nine. Or was a bit of the Psycho. I wonder if kids are watching this. I don't know how many of them would get this reference. Just like how many of them don't know what the hell Psycho is. So it's like, okay, the movie's probably thought to be meant for kids, but how many kids don't know Psycho? So, I don't know. Trying to think. Sorry, now I'm just watching the film. Pretty much Bugs Bunny and Jenny Elfman got into the spy car and they're on their way to Las Vegas. Which Brendan Fraser and Daffy Duck are already on the way. Let me look on the phone and see any trivia or stuff I could find on this. Probably not a whole lot. But like I said, Joe Dante never really talks about the film. And it's kind of ironic because you think Joe Dante would be like the right fit for this kind of movie because the type of Looney Tunes feel with some of the stuff, like even in Gremlins 2, or what he did the Twilight Zone, the movie segment, and those aspects, you would think that would be fairly. Remember Twilight Zone, the movie, his segment where the kid had the power to think of any fancy he wants, and there's definitely some moments that would make you think of the Looney Tunes cartoon zaniness. Again, being friends with Chuck Jones and having him cameo in Gremlins. So it does really make me wonder what all the stuff going on behind the scenes that apparently a new beginning, middle, and end happened. Like, well, what was the whole deal behind that? What the hell all happened? Sorry. Sending a message to someone. Before I forget. I think this is where they're going to meet. Yes, Yosemite Sam. Ah, damn it. Okay. Trying to see if there's anything here. And sorry for the clearing of the throat. I know that's annoying. Very annoying. Sorry I haven't sent much. I'm trying to deal a lot of messages to deal with. Just how it is with the real world. Is that Heather Locklear? Looks pretty damn good for her age, I'll say that. I don't know how old she was at this point, but again, it's kind of like, well, who is this for? Like, was this for kids or was it meant for? I guess the same thing you say for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because you look at Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you look at Jessica Rabbit, yeah, Jessica Rabbit's Jessica Rabbit. So I guess they kind of go in that same frame of mind. So kind of hard to complain about in this movie when they did it in the Who Framed Roger Rabbit movie. Which I do find better than this, yes. But yeah, this cost $80 million. It made $68.5 million worldwide. I didn't even... Yeah, that's right. This is the final film to be scored by composer Jerry Goldsmith, who died less than a year after the film's release. Man. Initially developed as a follow-up to Space Jam, it was going to involve a new basketball competition with Michael Jordan. However, Michael Jordan did not agree to star in the sequel, so they re-entered development as Spy Jam with Jackie Chan. But the project was cancelled. They asked Joe Dante to direct Back in Action. He did as a tribute to Chuck Jones. Reportedly wanted the film to be an anti-Space Jam, as Dante disliked how that film represented the Looney Tunes brand and personalities. I was making a movie for them with those characters, and they did not want to know about those characters. They didn't want to know why Bugs Bunny shouldn't do hip-hop. It was a pretty grim experience all around. So I guess he was fighting for more of an old-school Looney Tunes feel, while the studio probably wanted to make things more modern or stuff of that nature. Joe Dante stated he had no creative freedom on the project, called the longest year and a half of my life. They managed to preserve the original personalities of the characters, however the opening, middle, and end of the film are different from what Dante envisioned. Yeah, whatever that means. That's the thing, what are the details, though? What's the details behind that? This is get a 5.8 on IMDb. Let's see. I'm trying to look at some of the reviews on this. Cheap humor. It takes more to make the intelligent than... I guess some people feel that the humor should have been even... Yeah, I don't know what it is about... Like I said, I don't know. I'm trying to think... Why is it with this movie that I'm not as gung-ho about it as others? I can't really put in the words, honestly. It does try to have a good energy to it. I was gonna say, how many damn aces he got? Maybe that's another thing, is that, I'm enjoying Brendan Fraser, but Daffy Duck really does seem like the third wheel in this. And he doesn't really seem to do... And that's the thing, is that the Looney Tunes don't feel like they do a whole lot, accomplish a whole lot, even though it seems like they're in the movie more. And as lame as people kind of may seem like it, in the Space Jam movie, they still feel like they accomplished stuff. Even if it's just a basketball game, it still felt a sense of accomplishment, where Bugs Bunny found a girlfriend in Lola Bunny, and they're able to work together and showcase their strengths in this basketball game and work together as a team to succeed in this venture. Which is not really the case here. The case here is even more so how many cameos, how many meta humor we could put into this. We had Matthew Lillard and Shaddy. We talked about breaking the fourth wall, and Let's put you. We got Steve Martin in this. We got, I forgot the name of the race car driver there. We had the Batmobile. It just, Timothy Dalton is the super spy. Just really trying to just hit everything at the wall and see what sticks. Unless it feels like there could be something potential between this Daffy Duck Bugs Bunny. One doesn't appreciate the other as much. But maybe I'm trying to think of too deep of a story. I think even Joe Dante said it's meant to be just a dad fest from one to the other to the other. How many dads can we... Dad here, dad there. How many can we fit throughout this 90-minute running time? I guess that's why the film just feels like there's a whole lot going on. So I wouldn't say it feels too boring or anything. And it's only like an hour and 31 minutes, so it's pretty good. It doesn't overstay its welcome. But I said this time, I guess people would argue that, yeah, Space Jam made so much money, but this doesn't. But, Space Jam was 1996, this was 2003, maybe, there's a lot of people who saw Space Jam out of curiosity, but not everybody liked the film, so the people who didn't like the film, they're just a bit unsure about looking at anything Looney Tunes style. Or the people who liked the film, they went and saw it because of the soundtrack and Michael Jordan and sports, and then it wasn't showcasing this, so they didn't care to see it then. And people who are hardcore fans of Looney Tunes, they looked at it and said they just want to see a movie just with those characters alone, without the humans. This does become a point of contention for a lot of people, which is understandable, is when they do these type of films, they just want to see the Looney Tunes, or they just want to see... That was my first impression of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, I did see the film, and I did enjoy it. Same with the second film. I have them on Blu-ray over here, and I enjoyed the Sonic the Hedgehog films. But even then, there are people, even me, that will say that I don't really care a whole lot about the human characters. You care about the title creature characters. Like here, I mean, I like Brendan Fraser. Jen Elfman's not bad either. But there could be a lot of people who's like, hey, I don't care about these characters. I care about the Looney Tunes. I want to see more of the Looney Tunes. I want to see them showcase more, them the full star of it. At the very least, you have someone like Brendan Fraser starring it, and not John Cena or something of that nature. So at least there's that, which is nice. Nice to have showcased. So I'm just moving the microphone here a bit. So looking at the DVD here, see, even the cover kind of says how we're just going to pack everything we can in the kitchen sink, and hopefully you'll find something to like about it. Which, yeah, I don't hate the movie. It's, at the very least, a time waster, but just not a film I rewatch a whole lot. Does get 2 thumbs up from Eber and Roper. And actually, I'll be right back. Hey, sorry about that. I had to take care of some business. Pretty much had to take care of the cats. Make sure they're alright and such. But I am back I'm paused at 38 minutes and 39 seconds. 3, 2, 1, pressing play. As we have our characters lost in the desert, trying to figure out what the hell to do next. All that jazz. Don't be thinking about smelling her hair. Don't be creepy, dude. Like, stuff like that seems like there could be potential for stuff, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Nothing's really done with it. Daffy going, you would never understand. All you have to do is munch on a carrot and people love you. But you never really see Daffy Duck, like, change his tone, change his preference, change his frame of mind. So none of that really is accomplished or goes anywhere, does anything, means anything. And also something to do with the animation or the way the actors interact with it. It's I find it more easy to believe Bob Hoskins interacting with Roger and the way Bob Hoskins played it and the way the animation was than while in this movie it really just feels like they're not in the same dimension at all. That's what I mean with the meta, like the Walmart, and just have big old nod to the product placement. Which I get the joke on that. I will say I thought a movie that did that joke a lot funnier was, believe it or not, Return of the Killer Tomatoes with George Clooney, where the movie's in the middle just stops and it's like, we ran out of money. What? What the hell? And then George Clooney's like, I got an idea. And then they start doing a scene and all this product placement starts popping in and out of frame as they're still talking, more talking, more talking. And then George Clooney's like saying stuff and hawking stuff towards the camera. Like, something about that I thought was pretty funny. Of course, it made sense they were called Wild E. Coyote. Of course, it's Wild E. Coyote. You know it's not going to work out as it should. But you think that maybe if he try to hunt them down, then something goes wrong and he starts trying to help the characters. But yeah, none of that comes into fruition. Again, something about the special effects, like they don't. I know they're not supposed to blend in with the way the environment is, but I don't know, just something about the way it was done and other movies felt like a better blending, or I don't know how else to put it. Yep, here's your fanny pat back. And like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much just kind of going from just where the hell it wants to go. Because now we're in this like Area 51 type of lab with these creatures. The fuck are you guys from? The Exo Squad or something? The Men in Tights? I mean, Men in Black? Or we are the Men in Tights. Robbie the Robot. I read up somewhere that apparently Steve Martin, his one condition of doing the film is to have Robbie the Robot in there. Which, I mean, it wouldn't be the first Joe Dante to have it. I mean, that was featured in Gremlins as well, when Zach Galligan's dad's on the phone in this weird, like, sci-fi booth, and behind him is Robbie the Robot. Now, there's Joan Cusack. Of course, she was in Addams Family Values, the second film. She was in Grosse Point Blank with John Cusack. She was in Toys with Robin Williams, playing Robin's sister. She'd been in quite a few bits of her filmography. She was in the thriller Arlington Road, playing the wife of Tim Robbins' character. This is Area 52. Okay, yeah. I thought I remember that joke. There's a sign right there. Kevin McCarthy from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Now, of course, Kevin McCarthy he had worked with Joe Dante before. I'm trying to think if he was in the Twilight Zone segment. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if he was in the Twilight Zone segment back in the day where the kid could imagine stuff. But I know he was also in Inner Space. Again, like, Steve Martin is kind of doing a performance that just seems like it was trying to be for Jim Carrey, but it's quite not. We got Marvin the Martian. Who's going to be fit more into the plot here. One of the reasons he's on the front cover here. I mean, this is a pretty shitty cover when you look at it. Just bored of trying to fit everybody into it. I would say, if you want to know about the Blue Monty, there's a movie back in the day called The Blue Monty, starring Steve Railsback, that I've seen, actually do like. Of course, we have Peter Graves from the TV show Mission Impossible, among many others. I think Peter Graves kind of did this type of thing in, what was it, Men in Black 2? This type of narrating, and yeah, that's strong voice, but saying these ridiculous things to make it come off, hopefully, funny to the audience. But again, like, no one's really caring about the plot, the story to this. Like, again, and that's really like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck seem. It seems like they would be more prevalent in this film, but at the same time, it's in a weird way that I think people kind of and more. They get more endeared with Michael Jordan, playing basketball, which they thought at the time, one last time, more endearing than Brendan Fraser looking for Super Spy Dad in an Area 52 location and all sorts of stuff. Obviously showing some stuff that's going to be applied later on. Now Marvin the Martian's going to go make everything fucking haywire. Fuck their day up. Oh shit. I mean, kind of charming that these are more of this, like, 50s sci-fi movie, like men in suits or practical effects. One of them I think is an ode to, I want to say, Robot Monster, where it's like the ape type of body and sort of TV set antenna head. I think it was called Robot Monster. If it was, I forget what the hell it was called. But yeah, interesting, all the practical effects being showcased during those bits. I don't know if we see these characters again, though. Yeah, I'm not sure if we do see those characters again. Yeah, sorry I'm not saying much. It's pretty much very quickly they just got to Paris just because, and that's how it is. Gonna try to do some national treasure type of shit. Stuff the Declaration of Independence. Don't try to get the Mona Lisa. Daffy look like the Hamburglar. Change your outfit. Ah, okay. Like a Dakota ring. X-ray. Sorry, I stepped out for a second. It's late, 11 p.m. on New Year's, so I apologize for that, Ryan. I just completely zonked out for a second. Elmer Fudd, you fudge packing prick. Elmer Fudd, not really the brightest bulb. So Bill Goldberg is kidnapping Jenna Elfman, while Brendan Fraser just can't get to him in the nick of time. While Elmer Fudd is chasing Bugs and Daffy throughout some of these famous pictures. Like, this is a pretty cool scene. This is very imaginative, going through all the different styles of drawings and paintings, the different alterations and looks and designs. I thought of the streaming man, and then Bud steps on Elmer's foot to turn him into the same streaming man. Nice bit of creativity being shown through the animation. Pepe Le Pew. Can't have him in nowadays based on Space Jam 2. Because he's too much of a womanizer, rapist, whatever the fuck they call him. Thought it was alright for him to be in this movie, but not in Space... Well, Space Jam 2 just absolutely fucking sucks. Would not have mattered if he was in it or not. I remember this painting. I think it was the painting that was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where Alan Ruck was staring back and forth, closer and closer to the picture of the kid's face. Okay, I don't know why for a split second I thought that was a damn box cutter, but no, it's a fan. And you have a little bit of knowledge as to what kind of drawing that happened to be. But yeah, this is definitely one of those films that just feels like stuff just kind of being pulled out of one's ass as to what happens next. Well, yeah, this happens, and this happens, and this just seems to happen, and all that stuff. Yeah, country bumpkin. Hey, you fucking one of the country bears. I will knock you the fuck out and take your shit. Sorry I don't have much to say. I just don't know what else to say. And just all sorts of stuff going on, these hijinks. I just like Looney Tunes. Like, I grew up with Looney Tunes a bit. Back to the day on ABC, it was the, what do I put it, the Bugs and Tweety show, I believe it was called. Where they're showcasing a lot of the old cartoons from back to the day and these blocks for ABC kids. This is probably around 1990, 91, somewhere around there. Just get into the era where you also had Full House, you had Family Matters, you had all these other sitcom TV shows. And then cartoons, you would watch like Ninja Turtles on CBS and some other stuff. Then usually go back to ABC. This is, of the two channels, ABC seemed like the ones I would watch more. We're free falling. Watch out, Brendan Fraser. Watch out where you put your face. Just right over her crotch. You go a little bit closer. You don't go through. And something very warm and squishy. Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to see if there's maybe anything else I could look up in with this movie. Like I said, just Steve Martin just, as much as I liked him, this performance just aggravated the fuck out of me. Both when I first saw it and even now, just aggravates the hell out of me. Just too over the top. I get it's a Looney Tunes movie, but goddamn. Like, I know I should not keep comparing it to it, but you look at Christopher Lloyd and fucking Who for Roger Rabbit, and how it was a bigger performance, but it was also intimidating and it was memorable. While here, this weird Peter Lorre type of cartoon, just for some reason, yeah, let's just have Timothy Dalton hit himself and just stand there and do nothing and be controlled by it and not put in a cage or anything. Yeah, there's Ron Perlman. Jesus. I forgot that they just fucking ate all his flesh and blood, apparently. Drank all the blood, ate all the flesh and skin. It was just big old pile of fucking bones. Jesus. God damn it, man. Holy fuck. Completely forgot about that. Being like, Jesus Christ. It's just a weird sequence. Tweety saying "Cry freedom." I don't know. Just there's a weird randomness to it. And I'm sorry, with these commentaries, I never know what to talk about for stretches of time. I just really don't know, because I didn't grow up with the film. It's not like a nostalgic film. I've seen the film maybe 3 times in my life, give or take. This was like Legends of the Hidden Temple for fucking Nickelodeon. So just never 100% sure on what to say. And that's what I mean. It just seems like wait, we were just in Vegas, now we're in France, now we're here. I was trying to find some info on this, but can't really find much about it. Yeah, there's not much info to say about this. Pretty much just find all these type of treasures, or hopeful treasures, all these types of chicanery. And that's what I mean. Like, it felt like the beginning of the film was going to be about Daffy learning a bit of humility, or learning something more about himself, or not wanting to be the butt of jokes, and he wants to be the hero. He wants to be all sorts of stuff, and it's not really the case. And like I said, there's not really any maybe genuine heart to it. Him feeling like he doesn't belong, him feeling like he's the butt of jokes, him feeling that people love Bugs more than him, and Bugs takes all the spotlight. And then, other than like 1 or 2 references, it's not really utilized at all throughout most of this film. Instead, now you have this device that will turn people into stuff like monkeys. Is that okay then? And that's the thing, it's acting as if it's this buddy picture between Daffy and Brendan Fraser, but you never get a sense that they care for each other, or they liked each other, or much of a buddy picture after a little bit, because then it becomes Jenna Elfman and Bugs Bunny and all these other stuff going on, and I liked a lot of other stuff, other movies, other buddy picture movies as it calls it. There's not a whole lot of stuff to showcase the partnership between one and the other where they've grown, or they've grown to like each other, they've grown to care for each other. I didn't even say that's typical, but it's a pattern that usually works. So pretty much the twist is that these characters had a bit of a secret to them, and yet Taz fart. Guessing they got Michael Jordan's permission to use him. Now it's back to Steve Martin. And all the characters just standing there doing nothing. And Bill Goldberg just happens to be a female Taz. I didn't just try and be just this random dad that you go, okay, I guess that's the thing there. So they were zapped into nothing. I don't know why the bad guy didn't just want to kill, destroy, annihilate them, because it's not that type of movie. And of course, you have Timothy Dalton with a shitload of dynamite around him. Train of Death, tons of TNT, an anvil, Pendulum of Doom, and a partridge in a pear tree. Just everything up and down the sun, I guess. Everybody wanted this damn blue monkey. Oh, come on, Brendan Fraser. It's not like you thought he would want to tell the truth and believe in him. Come on now. You knew it would be full of shit. I mean, I guess you didn't showcase that this is leading up to the part where Daffy may become a hero, but you still have a little bit more humor and heart to it, and still show, like, you just still have a bit more heart, and I don't want to go so far as pathos, but a little bit more, while also showcasing the humor of it all, but not really a case for it. I did the same thing you could argue for Space Jam as well. And Steve Martin's character always just looks like he's ready to shit his pants, or he did shit his pants. He's walking around in a dirty diaper. Just the way, like I said, his character interacts and just being so broad. It just Pippi Longstocking outfit. I don't know. I know I'm hot. Like I said, I swear he's like trying to be fucking Jim Carrey in this. So pretty much Marvin and the Martians go into this location here while Buds and Daffy are... I mean, it's nice to see Marvin the Martian being implemented a bit more into the plot. Character, like I said, pretty much most of these characters aren't utilized that much. Even in Space Jam 2 wasn't utilized that much. And because of the complete crap fest of that movie, who knows when the next time you don't see Looney Tunes. That's one of those things that you look at movies like Pixar, right? You look at movies that Pixar does, Wall-E, Up, even like A Bug's Life, or the Toy Story films. Like if you actually try to make a picture of that quality with the Looney Tunes characters, where like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck could have the type of antagonistic friendship that Buzz Lightyear and Woody have in Toy Story. But at the same time, you still have your humor and you get really good animation. But then they're the focal point stars of the movie, and they showcase humor, heart, like all these aspects you can really develop. And it's for some reason they don't want to do that, which is just crazy to me. Same with like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and on the Disney side, it's like, well, you can't do it that way. Well, why don't you try and see what happens? Because you're not doing anything else with it. And you did it like this and it bombed. And Space Jam 2 didn't set the world on fucking fire. Here we have this gigantic Robo Dog. For whatever reason. Well, not for whatever reason, but still. Then somehow they got away with Bugs Bunny using a fucking lightsaber. Even reading a book that says The Force for Dummies. I don't know if maybe Joe Dante had to ask George Lucas in them, or just, they were able to just get away with it because it's parody. I just kind of like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where Mark Hamill had a lightsaber, but it wasn't really a lightsaber. That they have Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. But yeah, look at this finale. Like as much as like Brendan Fraser, I don't really give a shit about him dealing with this bad-looking Robo Dog, all this stuff. Of course, this is going to get blown up again and again and again. I mean, That's kind of the thing. Like Jenna Elfman, like I said, I don't know what else she's done after this. It's like the one last big profile pictures I remember her doing. And I said Brendan Fraser, this is the start of a series of flops. I mean, not the start, but it was part of a series of flops. Like I mentioned, Monty Bone, and this movie, and Furry Vengeance, which killed it. And then once in a while, we get into like a straight to video movie. Yeah. And then that's pretty much it. Until even the Mummy 3 wasn't that much of a hit. Wasn't that good of a movie. So I know he was supposed to be in that Batgirl movie as a villain, but that got shit canned. But I mean, it's nice to see that Daffy Duck gets his moment to shine. Which he doesn't usually get to do. But I just wish there was even more of a setup, build up to. I mean, I guess the bit up a little bit at the beginning, but then other than one, two or so lines, it's not much followed up until the very end of it. Like the whole aspect of the humans and the robo doll, like did anyone really give a shit about any of that? Not a whole lot, not really. And as much as I like these actors, I don't know. Did I really care about the father and son? Not really, not a whole lot. Sorry, now I'm just listening to dialogue. Sorry about that. Like I say, it's a bit weird that they didn't try to do a big budget movie like this and have the title characters be the stars of it. I guess they just never have that trust for it. What the hell, does that bear have the hots for Bud Bunny? Oh, here's the other Brendan Fraser. Well, what the fuck dog is that? He's carrying. Looks like he got ruffled a few times through the fucking laundromat. Why does it look like that Brendan Fraser's with one of the Spice Girls? And nothing ever, changes. Bugs Bunny has all this stuff, and Daffy still don't be the second banana. Yeah, you know that was going to happen. Today, Junior. And that's the movie. I mean, hour and 24 minutes, so it's not a long movie. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad film. I think if you're a Looney Tunes fan, you'll get at least some kind of enjoyment out of it like I did. Oh, Dean Cundy. He was a director of photography on a lot of John Carpenter films. And he also worked with Robert Zemeckis quite a bit. I mean, John Carpenter, he was the DP on John Carpenter's The Thing and all this other stuff. The Fog, Escape from New York, Halloween. I forgot that was Leo Rossi and Vernon Wells. Wow. Leo Rossi would be... He was in the original Halloween 2. He was in the Relentless films. Vernon Wells, of course, the bad guy in The Road Warrior. And Bennett from Commando, the villain in that. Barely recognize them in this. Like, not much to them. Like I said, I would be very curious when Joe Dante says that the beginning, middle, and end were different from his vision, what that would have entailed. Yeah, Dick Biller, Roger Corman, Kevin McCarthy. Oh yeah, Mary Warrenoff, who was also in Eating Raoul. Apparently Brendan Fraser, they really liked his... I guess at one point he did a voice for Taz. They really liked it, so they let him do the actual Taz voice in the movie. That's pretty neat. But overall, it's a film that, like I said, it's a time waster. I guess, I don't know if just nostalgia or just whatever it is. I still like Space Jam more. I know technically this should be the better movie for a lot of people, and it is. I do understand it, but I don't know whether because the nostalgia is strong and the soundtrack and all these other aspects that just make it, at least it feel more unique compared to this. I just, when I looked at this film, I'm like, I'd just rather go watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, that's the same with Space Jam, but again, just this one reminds me more of that movie, I guess. So the comparisons seem more prevalent. But do I think this is a bad film? No, I don't think it's a bad film. I think Steve Martin was very overplaying it. Like I said, it felt like they said try to be Jim Carrey. And as much as like Steve Martin, that's not really the humor I gravitate towards with Steve Martin. Like I said, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and L.A. Story are the Steve Martin films I like more. So, Bullfinger, that's another Steve Martin film I like. And he's in those three, he's different from how he is in this. These little animatics, man, they're showing a lot of the Bugs Bunny with the lightsaber. They really love that idea. They're showing that time and time again. I'm sure there's some people that felt they would want to do a movie entirely of these characters. But, the studio enforces we have to have human characters. We have to have them a bit more prominent. I think that's another thing that was you're hoping or thinking that there'd be a bit more of a deeper with the characters with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, but again, really nothing comes into play with that. Like at least like a couple heartfelt conversations. I'm not saying it has to be the fucking Shawshank Redemption, but a little bit, like Pixar films do. But it's a weird comparison because there's never going to be a Pixar type of film. It's just ideas, wacky, fun, in and out, 80-some minute movie, and do it a nice ode. Try to do a nice ode to those Looney Tunes cartoons back in the day. But like I say, it kind of just was okay. It was there. Like I said, kind of in one ear, out the other. All right. I mean, the features on this: all new Looney Tunes cartoon, a little bit behind the scenes, no commentary, which that tells a lot. And yeah, they were doing these newer cartoons they were putting in the theaters, and apparently they were going to do a lot more, but because of the failure of this film, they completely abandoned that idea. So, which is too bad. But yeah, the film, it is what it is. With that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later.